Brookhaven was the kind of town where everyone knew each other's business, where streetlights flickered in the evenings and the hum of small-town life created a comforting rhythm. But on a rainy Thursday evening, that rhythm was shattered when Robin Lawrence, a 28-year-old journalist with a reputation for curiosity and determination, vanished without a trace. Robin was last seen leaving the offices of the Brookhaven Chronicle, where she worked tirelessly on local news and investigative pieces. Her colleagues remembered her walking briskly toward the parking lot, umbrella in hand, determined to make it home before the storm worsened. She never arrived. When Robin failed to show up for dinner with her family, her mother, Judith Lawrence, grew worried. Judith called her daughter's phone repeatedly, leaving increasingly frantic messages. Hours later, when there was still no answer, she contacted the police. By midnight, Brookhaven's small police force had launched a search, led by Detective Marlon Vickers, a seasoned officer who had seen cases both ordinary and strange. At first, the investigation seemed routine: a missing person report, searches of Robin's usual routes, interviews with neighbors and co-workers. But it quickly became clear that this was no ordinary disappearance. Robin's apartment, located on the quieter side of town, offered the first unsettling clues. The door was locked from the inside, but there were subtle signs of disturbance. A chair overturned near the window, a coffee cup shattered on the floor, and papers scattered across her desk. Yet there were no signs of forced entry. Her laptop and camera, essential tools of her trade, were missing. The apartment's small safe, normally holding her personal journal and sensitive research notes, had been emptied. It was as if someone had deliberately gone through her life, taking items that mattered most to her. Detective Vickers meticulously documented the scene. He noted the absence of fingerprints other than Robin's, the faint traces of mud near the back door, and a peculiar residue on her desk. There was no immediate explanation for any of it. Despite his experience, Vickers felt a chill that he couldn't shake. Something about the way Robin's apartment had been treated suggested knowledge, precision, and planning. Whoever had taken her had done so with care, leaving enough chaos to confuse, but not enough to hide every clue. The investigation quickly spread to the streets. Friends, neighbors, and co-workers were interviewed, and a timeline of Robin's last day was painstakingly reconstructed. Every detail was scrutinized: the taxi she had taken from the office, the brief stop at a convenience store, the familiar shortcuts through the wet alleys she often used. But each lead fizzled. Security cameras showed glimpses of Robin walking toward the rain-slicked streets, but nothing afterward. There were no sightings that could confirm her movements, no calls that hinted at danger. It was as though she had simply vanished from existence. Brookhaven, a town that thrived on routine, became a place of unease. Rumors swirled. Some whispered about an accidental disappearance, a car accident hidden by the darkness of night. Others speculated about foul play, pointing to Robin's investigative work as a possible motive. Yet nothing concrete emerged. For weeks, detectives combed through local records, questioned transient workers, and even enlisted help from neighboring towns. But every lead dissolved into frustration. Robin Lawrence, vibrant and meticulous, had slipped from the world without leaving a trace, and the community felt the weight of an invisible presence, a void where her life had been. As days turned into weeks, the case grew cold. Detective Vickers kept the file active on his desk, circling back to it repeatedly, refusing to let it fade into obscurity. He knew there was more to Robin's disappearance than met the eye. Her meticulous nature, her curiosity, and her fearless dedication to uncovering truths suggested that she might have stumbled upon something dangerous. And somewhere in Brookhaven, perhaps, the answers were quietly waiting. The town continued its routine, yet a shadow lingered over every quiet street, a reminder that a young journalist had vanished, leaving behind only questions, and a promise that the truth was still out there, waiting to be uncovered. Months had passed since Robin Lawrence disappeared, and the case had gone cold. The police continued their investigations, but with no new leads, their efforts were beginning to lose momentum. The files sat in the back of the Brookhaven police station, quietly gathering dust, while the community tried to return to normal. Friends and family clung to hope, but hope was becoming fragile. That fragile hope was rekindled unexpectedly by Eleanor Frost, Robin's closest friend and fellow journalist, who had refused to believe that Robin could simply vanish without leaving a trace. Eleanor was determined to find answers, no matter how long it took. While sorting through Robin's personal effects that had been left at her apartment, Eleanor discovered something unusual. Hidden in a folder labeled Personal Research, she found a USB drive that Robin had never mentioned. It was encrypted, protected by a password complex enough to suggest Robin intended it to remain secret. Eleanor, skilled in digital investigation herself, managed to bypass the encryption and discovered a treasure trove of files. They included photographs, notes, and recordings, all pointing to a secret investigation Robin had been conducting before her disappearance. It was clear from the files that Robin had stumbled onto something dangerous, something she had not shared with anyone. Among the files were photographs of unusual transactions, documents tracing the movement of rare and valuable artwork, and videos of meetings Robin had recorded discreetly. There was a name that appeared repeatedly in her notes: the curator. The identity of the curator was unknown, but Robin had labelled the person as someone deeply involved in illegal activity, possibly smuggling stolen art, with connections that reached far beyond Brookhaven. Eleanor realised that Robin had been trying to expose this individual, and that her disappearance might not have been a random act of violence. This was a revelation that sent chills down Eleanor's spine. Robin had been in danger long before she vanished. Eleanor shared the files with Detective Marlon Vickers, who immediately recognised their significance. Each file was meticulously organised, showing Robin's attention to detail and the seriousness of her investigation. The photographs revealed meetings in secluded locations, and one video captured a transaction so secretive it suggested the curator operated with careful planning and resources. There were cryptic notes alongside these materials, including phrases like "trust no one" and "they are watching," which hinted at the level of risk Robin had understood. The detective realised that the case had taken a direction far beyond a typical missing person investigation. As the investigation reopened, detectives began tracing every lead Robin had documented. The trail led them through a network of local galleries, private collectors, and even international contacts that Robin had uncovered through her research. Each step brought new questions. How had Robin gathered this information without alerting the curator? And more importantly, had her pursuit of the truth put her directly in harm's way? As detectives analysed Robin's notes, it became clear that she had been both thorough and careful, yet someone had outmaneuvered her. The files also included a series of coded messages and encrypted documents, which Robin had painstakingly compiled over months. Eleanor, alongside a team of experts, began decoding them. They discovered references to hidden storage spaces, secret deliveries, and names of people who might have been involved or had knowledge of the curator's operations. One particular document suggested that Robin had uncovered evidence linking the curator to a high-profile theft of historical artifacts. The scope of her investigation was far wider than anyone had imagined, and the danger she had faced was now more apparent than ever. As Eleanor and the authorities pieced together Robin's final investigation, a troubling realization emerged. Someone had known she was getting close. The disappearance was no longer just a mystery. It was a calculated act, meant to silence her before she could reveal the truth. Each new discovery brought a mix of fear and determination. For Eleanor, it became a personal mission to continue Robin's work. For Detective Vickers, it was a race against time to follow the breadcrumbs Robin had left behind, hoping that her courage and meticulous records would eventually lead them to answers. The files had reopened the case, transforming it from a cold disappearance into a dangerous and urgent pursuit of justice. The renewed investigation into Robin Lawrence's disappearance began to yield unexpected results, though the pieces of the puzzle remained scattered. Weeks after Eleanor Frost handed over Robin's encrypted files, Detective Marlon Vickers received a call that shifted the case in a new direction. The caller was Gideon Shaw, a reclusive man who lived near Brookhaven's docks. Gideon had a reputation in the town for keeping to himself, rarely speaking to anyone and avoiding attention. He had a past that made people wary. Years ago, he had been involved in minor, criminal activity, but he claimed to have witnessed something crucial regarding Robin's last movements. Gideon explained that weeks before Robin's disappearance, he had seen her near the warehouse district along the docks. He described a tense encounter between Robin and a shadowy figure whose face he could not clearly make out. Gideon had been cautious about coming forward, fearing retaliation from powerful people he suspected might be involved. Now, feeling the weight of conscience and seeing the renewed attention on the case, he felt it was time to speak. His detailed recollections gave detectives the first concrete visual of someone who might have been responsible. The sketch that emerged from his descriptions depicted a man of medium build, careful in his movements, and someone who seemed to blend easily into the background. With Gideon's testimony, Detective Vickers directed a focused investigation into the docks and warehouse area. Forensic teams scoured the muddy paths where Robin had last been seen. Their persistence paid off when fragments of personal items were recovered buried near an old storage shed. Among the debris were pieces of Robin's scarf, a torn page from her notebook, and, most chillingly, fingerprints that did not match her own. Each find carried an unmistakable sense of foreboding. It was clear that someone had deliberately tried to erase Robin from existence, but had left enough behind to create a breadcrumb trail, whether intentionally or through overconfidence. As detectives pieced together the timeline, a pattern emerged. Robin had been following leads linked to the curator, as indicated in her files, and had been gathering information about illegal art transactions in the docks area. Her meticulous record suggested she was aware of the danger she faced, yet she continued her investigation undeterred. The thought of Robin deliberately putting herself in harm's way resonated with Eleanor, who had always admired her friend's courage. Robin's bravery was evident, but so too was the calculated risk someone had taken to intercept her path. Further investigation revealed small, almost imperceptible signs that Robin had been observed. Security footage from nearby warehouses, initially overlooked, showed fleeting shadows and the rapid movement of unidentified individuals. Forensic analysis of the footprints around the dock revealed multiple sets, some fresh, some older, indicating someone had been monitoring the area, perhaps even anticipating her movements. Detectives began to suspect that Robin's disappearance had been orchestrated with precision and that her pursuer had extensive knowledge of her habits. The discovery of Gideon as a witness provided a breakthrough, but it also raised new questions. How had this man, a recluse with limited connections, witnessed such a critical event? Why had he remained silent for so long? And perhaps most importantly, could his observations be trusted? Detective Vickers weighed every detail carefully. Gideon's account matched certain fragments of evidence found at the scene, lending credibility to his story. Yet the investigation revealed how vulnerable Robin had been, surrounded by people who either ignored danger or deliberately concealed it. With the pieces slowly aligning, Eleanor and the detectives realized that Robin's pursuit of the truth had led her directly into the shadows of a network she had not fully understood. Each recovered fragment, each witness statement, and each clue from her files pointed to a single, unsettling reality. Robin had been silenced because she had been close to uncovering something far bigger than anyone had imagined. For Eleanor, the discovery ignited a renewed sense of urgency. For Detective Vickers, it deepened the resolve to follow the trail Robin had left behind. In the quiet of the Brookhaven docks, where rain mixed with mud and the distant hum of freight ships echoed, the investigation gained clarity. Robin Lawrence had not simply disappeared, she had been pursued, observed, and trapped. The silent witness had finally spoken, opening the door to the next stage of uncovering the truth. The renewed investigation into Robin Lawrence's disappearance was finally beginning to reveal the outlines of a larger, more sinister story. The evidence uncovered at the docks and the files Eleanor Frost had retrieved pointed to a deliberate act of silencing, but who was responsible remained uncertain. As detectives dug deeper, the focus shifted to Brookhaven's seemingly respectable circles, where appearances hid secrets that could destroy lives. Among the names that surfaced, one stood out: Harold Merton, a well-known art dealer with an impeccable reputation. Harold had long been considered a pillar of the community, hosting gallery openings, advising collectors, and cultivating a persona of trustworthiness. Yet beneath the veneer of legitimacy, evidence hinted at something far darker. Eleanor, poring over Robin's files, noticed a series of encrypted emails and notes that referenced Harold repeatedly. At first glance, they seemed innocuous, but careful decoding revealed veiled threats and warnings. Robin had documented multiple interactions with Harold, each noting subtle intimidation and coercion. He had been aware of her investigation into the curator, and the files suggested he had acted to protect his own interests. The discovery sent chills through Eleanor. Someone Robin had trusted, someone connected to her work, had played a role in endangering her life. Detective Marlon Vickers initiated surveillance on Harold, examining his daily routine and the activities around his gallery and private warehouse. Every step seemed ordinary, but the more investigators observed, the more anomalies they detected. Records of art sales had been altered, shipments redirected, and certain clients appeared to be completely fabricated. A pattern emerged that suggested Harold had been using his business as a front for illegal dealings, hiding both stolen art and evidence of transactions linked to the curator. Every discovery confirmed the sense that Robin had stumbled upon a dangerous web of deceit. Breakthrough came when forensic analysts found surveillance footage, showing Robin entering Harold's warehouse late at night. She was alone, meticulous, and purposeful, carrying a notebook that contained critical notes about the curator's operations. She never emerged from the building. The footage shocked everyone. It suggested that Harold had lured or intercepted Robin without leaving an obvious trace. His careful planning, combined with his established reputation, had allowed him to operate in plain sight. The realization was unsettling. A person so trusted by the community could conceal such calculated malice. Further digging revealed a network of accomplices Harold had cultivated over the years. Employees and associates previously considered loyal and professional had been complicit in monitoring Robin's movements. Emails and financial records showed payments made to individuals to ensure she remained unaware of the full scope of danger. Every move Robin made had been anticipated, every lead carefully monitored. The investigation exposed Harold's ability to manipulate not only the art world, but also those around him, creating a protective shield that made detection nearly impossible. Eleanor continued decoding Robin's notes alongside the detectives and uncovered even more startling evidence. Robin had suspected Harold's involvement before she disappeared, writing in her journal about a trusted enemy whose charm concealed ruthless intent. She had meticulously documented his patterns, his movements, and even his associates' routines. Each detail revealed her intelligence and courage, but also the stakes she faced. It became painfully clear that Robin had underestimated the extent to which Harold would go to protect himself. The implications of these discoveries reverberated through Brookhaven. The town, once proud of its esteemed art dealer, now confronted the reality of betrayal and corruption hidden in plain sight. The investigation confirmed that Robin's disappearance had been orchestrated by someone intimately familiar with her life, her work, and her methods. Harold had used his position to cover his tracks, manipulating perception while eliminating a threat to his operations. It was a calculated betrayal, a chilling reminder of how easily appearances could deceive. Detective Vickers realized that the case had shifted. What had begun as a missing person investigation was now an unraveling of a network of deceit, betrayal, and criminal activity that stretched far beyond Brookhaven. For Eleanor, the confirmation of Harold's role intensified her mission to honor Robin's work. Robin Lawrence had uncovered dangerous truths, and Harold's betrayal demonstrated the lengths people would go to protect secrets. The stage was set for the final phase of the investigation, one that would confront the hidden power behind her disappearance and finally bring the story closer to closure. The breakthrough that Detective Marlon Vickers and Eleanor Frost had been working toward finally arrived. After months of piecing together Robin Lawrence's meticulous records, decrypting her files, and following leads through Brookhaven's hidden corridors, they discovered a hidden basement beneath Harold Merton's warehouse. It was a space no one in the town had suspected existed. Dark, damp, and carefully concealed behind false walls and locked doors. What lay inside revealed the full scope of Harold's deception and the chilling reality of Robin's final days. Inside the basement, investigators found stacks of Robin's missing belongings, carefully preserved yet telling a story of sudden interruption. Her notebook, scattered photographs, and even some of her personal effects were there, almost as if Harold had intended them to remain as evidence of control rather than destruction. On the walls were meticulously organized charts of transactions, records of stolen and smuggled art, and financial logs connecting Harold to the curator. Each piece of evidence demonstrated not only his criminal enterprise, but also the calculated steps he had taken to silence anyone who might threaten it. Among the items was a recording device, likely left by Robin herself, capturing conversations between Harold and his accomplices. The audio revealed details of her investigation that she had suspected would be dangerous, including threats against her if she did not stop her inquiries. The recordings corroborated Eleanor's suspicions and provided the police with irrefutable proof of Harold's guilt. It was a moment of grim validation. Robin had been closer than anyone had realized to uncovering the full truth, and Harold had acted decisively to prevent her from revealing it. The arrest of Harold Merton came swiftly after the basement's discovery. He was taken into custody, his calm and composed facade replaced by a mixture of disbelief and fury. Authorities seized his records, revealing an intricate network of accomplices, shell companies, and falsified documentation. Harold had hidden his crimes in plain sight, using trust, influence, and community admiration as tools of manipulation. The realization shocked Brookhaven. A respected member of the community had not only orchestrated Robin's disappearance, but had constructed a hidden world of crime. Beneath the town's quiet streets, the investigation continued as detectives mapped out the full extent of Harold's operations. They discovered evidence that indicated Robin's disappearance had been narrowly avoided as a permanent tragedy. Though she had been abducted, her intelligence and foresight had allowed her to leave subtle clues that ultimately led investigators to her location. The basement, her hidden files, and the recordings were a testament to her courage and resourcefulness. Robin had meticulously documented the truth, ensuring that even if she were silenced temporarily, her work could not be erased. For Eleanor, the revelation brought a mixture of relief and sorrow. Robin's bravery had exposed a dangerous criminal, yet the ordeal underscored the risk she had taken and the threat she had faced. The files, recordings, and personal effects allowed Eleanor to continue Robin's mission, publishing the story that revealed the full extent of Harold's deception to the public. Brookhaven finally understood the magnitude of what had occurred. A young journalist had uncovered corruption, and the town's faith in appearances had almost cost her life. Harold's trial drew attention far beyond Brookhaven, exposing the elaborate lengths he had gone to cover his tracks and manipulate those around him. Witnesses, accomplices, and victims testified, confirming the evidence found in the basement. As the trial progressed, the narrative of Robin Lawrence's bravery became central to the story. Her investigative skills, meticulous planning, and courage in the face of danger were celebrated, while Harold's calculated betrayal and manipulation were condemned. In the end, justice was served. Harold was convicted, and the town slowly began to heal from the shock of betrayal by someone they had trusted. Robin's legacy endured, not just in the resolution of the case, but in the reminder that truth, courage, and perseverance could overcome even the most carefully constructed lies. Brookhaven returned to its quiet routine, yet the shadow of the events remained, a reminder of the dangers that can hide behind trust, and of the bravery required to confront them. Robin Lawrence had faced danger with courage, and her story became a lasting testament to the power of vigilance, integrity, and the pursuit of justice, inspiring a community and ensuring that the cold case was finally closed.